Let's talk to Jayant Menon, a visiting senior fellow at ICS, Yusuf Ishaq Institute, and a former lead economist at the Asian Development Bank, joining us live now from Singapore. Thank you for speaking to us here on the programme. Now, as we were hearing there, Asia is the worst affected by this war. What are the signs that you're seeing now that we are weeks into this war with the further blockade that we're seeing also that's being carried out by the Americans?
I think what we have to recognize, Sarah, is that the longer this war goes on, or uncertainty about how this is all going to end, the longer that goes on, the costs will start increasing at an accelerating pace. We've already seen the flow through of price inflation in many countries around the world, especially in Asia. But now I think we are starting to hit the quantity restrictions. Supplies are beginning to run out. They can't be rationed much longer. And that's when the real crunch will hit, when the quantities start running out on top of the increased prices. And that's the big concern, that now we're into the second month and there's no clear sign of how it might even evolve from here on.
So if there's no clear sign of where we are going to move on from here, what are governments doing in India? What sort of contingency plans, if any, do they have to be able to mitigate this so it doesn't trickle down to their people?
Well, I think, the poorer countries of the region, India, a lot of the least developed countries of Southeast Asia, like Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Timor-Leste, they are the ones that are really struggling. And the poor within these countries are the ones that are going to bear the brunt of these impacts the longer they go on. These poor people are the ones that rely the most on public services and public transfers, and rising import bills for fuel will eventually cut into that fiscal space, and they will be affected. This is already starting to happen, but a humanitarian crisis looms on top of a macroeconomic crisis, and one will feed the other.
Right, and, will we be seeing more countries that are already dealing with Iran, some of them very heavily, China, India, Pakistan, for example, start to look elsewhere for those oil supplies and for trade?
Well, I think everyone is looking wherever they can, but a lot of it in this region of Southeast Asia and East Asia cannot avoid going through the choke point, which is the Strait of Hormuz. And so about 2/3 of Southeast Asia's oil imports must traverse that choke point. So it's not so much even finding supplies, but also finding a way of getting them through. And we've seen this bunching already of fleets now, not being able to move either way. Some of them with supplies not being able to get through, and others not being able to get to the supplies to actually bring them back. So this is a cascading problem. And as I said, the longer it lasts, there will be a magnified effect, which is accelerating in its impact on these countries.
And of course, to some degree, this is already filtering down to people. We have seen protests in India by factory workers because of the rise of the cost of living. And at the same time, this is the time to plant crops in many parts of Asia right now.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people don't realize that almost half the cost of food production is related to fuel costs, either directly or indirectly. Even fertilizers, nitrogenous fertilizers are being affected by the LNG restrictions. They're running out of supplies, and their prices are shooting up sharply. And also, irrigation uses a lot of fuel in the poorer countries, where they have small heavy fuel generators that need to operate for transport as well as irrigation. So agriculture is not immune. It's not just fuel that goes into industrial production, but almost everything that's grown or manufactured is being affected.
Of course. Thank you very much for your thoughts there. Jayant Menon, a visiting senior fellow at ICS Yusuf Ishaq Institute and a former lead economist at the Asian Development Bank. Thank you for your time.